Okay, we are live here on the Google Hangout here with Dr. Mondo, and this is the exclusive members only Google Hangout. I'm so excited to have a chance to be here tonight and get a chance to interact with you guys. You know, a lot of you are on this Hangout right now because you are members who are currently going through the Roadmap to Weight Loss program. Some of you have already gone through the Roadmap to Weight Loss program. This is kind of an opportunity where all of us get a chance to hang out and get together and just discuss kind of what the experience has been like. It's a chance for you to ask me any questions that have come up for you throughout the journey during the program. And some of you right now are kind of wondering, you know, what is the program? Some of you have been given just limited access to be able to jump on this Hangout one time to get a chance to see kind of what the Dr. Mondo world is all about. And, you know, for you guys, the Roadmap to Weight Loss program, just to kind of catch you up, is an 8-week program that we actually get to address the psychological aspect of weight loss. So many of us know that there's this aspect that exists. You know, we know that it's not just about calories in and calories out. If it was just as simple as that, none of us would be struggling, right? The regain statistics wouldn't be as high as they are with weight loss. We know the reality is that weight loss is a really tough battle, and that a lot of times part of this journey is such an emotional one, and it's not really talked about all that often. So this program that so many people are now going through is a program where you can actually have a chance to explore and get to the roots of the emotional part of your journey. And it's also an opportunity to learn what you can do to be successful long-term. Yes, at keeping the weight off, but also at creating an internal transformation. So tonight, let me give you a little bit of a rundown on the format. For some of you, this is the first time that you've been a part of one of these Google Hangouts, and you know, really they're all about you. So that is the format. Tonight is a chance for you to interact a few different ways. Number one, you can hop on the call, and if you do hop on the Google Hangout, I want to remind all of you that your audio instantly becomes audible to all of us. So make sure that if you jump on and you jump on screen, that you immediately mute your microphone, okay? But if you have a question, I want you to unmute your microphone and jump right in. As soon as you start talking, the Google Hangout's gonna pick you up, put you on the main camera, and then we'll have a chance to hear from you. These Hangouts are the best when we have interaction from our members. So I wanna encourage you to use the Google Hangouts feature, log in through Google so that you can enjoy the opportunity to be on camera, have a chance to interact that way. I'd love to see your face. I'd love to kind of hear from you specifically, live and in person like you're hearing from me. The other thing you can do though is maybe right now you're not in a place to do that. You're just kind of watching this, you have some headphones on, that's fine. Continue to watch through YouTube. YouTube's a great way right now for you to live stream the event. And you can participate by just watching. You can also type in your questions, and you can type in your questions through logging into Google Hangouts. You don't have to turn your camera on, you don't have to turn your microphone on, but you can log in and you can be able to still type in some questions to me. I see the questions on the right-hand side of the screen. I can see people right now as they're continuing to log on and start viewing the event, and that will give me an opportunity to make sure that I answer your questions tonight in the hour that we have. So, really quickly, you know, this whole idea of members-only events, I just want to let you know that we're going to have plenty more of these events. You know, this is an opportunity for me to interact with you. I don't get a chance to do that. And there's some people that are going through the program that haven't even had a chance to ever really meet me, have a chance to ask me questions directly. I try as much as I can to log on to the Facebook forums and keep up with you guys. There's so much amazing activity right now happening in all those forums. So much amazing sharing going on. There's amazing moments that are unfolding on a daily basis. I can't always get to some of those though, so I want to have this opportunity for you to interface with me. One quick disclaimer though, you know, I'm a licensed therapist. This is not therapy. So this is just an opportunity where I step more into the coaching role. I can't do one-on-one or even group therapy with you in this format. There's a time and there's a place for it. But what I will do in this format is I will try my best to answer your questions with, again, all the knowledge that I have in mind. But again, this is not an opportunity to really do intensive therapy. It's just another way for you to get a chance to interact and get a chance to have some of your questions answered. So with that said, we are now going to open it up for the forum, and we're going to ask anyone that right now is watching. This is your chance to ask some questions. So again, type in if you have questions that you'd like to type in, or if you, again, if you want to email some questions in. I know some people recently did that before tonight. They said, hey, you know, I just want my question to be answered. And what I'm going to do now is, again, as I start to see some of these questions come through, I'm going to then read the question and I'm going to then just kind of answer it to the best of my ability. So, okay, we got some questions coming in now. Here's one question that I saw here. And actually, I want to start with a question that I got before tonight began. This is a question. It says, Dr. Mondo, thanks to the Roadmap to Weight Loss program, I now am so aware of why I emotionally eat, and I'm even aware of making difficult or different choices as a result. So I realize why I'm emotionally eating, and I realize that I can actually make different choices, which is awesome. You talk about quiet time and slowing things down. Absolutely. But I'm wondering how else I can stop this pattern of emotional eating. Okay, so first of all, this is a really general question that I get a lot, and I think you know, the program does a good job of giving you some basic tools to help you explore and understand, why am I emotionally eating? And a big part of stage 3 that we talk about in gaining insight and healing old wounds is this idea that you really have to have a good, you know, a good notion of what your binge eating or your emotional eating or your comfort eating, I prefer comfort eating as a term really, what your comfort eating cycle is. And so in order to know that, it's not just a matter of, you know, what are my trigger foods? That's important. But really the question I want to ask you is, what are your trigger emotions? And so what we're getting here is we're getting someone kind of saying that, you know, I can realize that my trigger emotions are now becoming really evident to me. And I can even maybe potentially respond to those trigger emotions. However, I'm still having a difficult time understanding how to slow things down. So one of the things that I love to use when I'm working with a client in therapy is to be able to encourage them to slow things down and delay the decision. So delay the decision is a technique that's been used for a long time around comfort eating. And what it really is it's just adding a gap, a period of time before you actually make a decision on whether or not you're going to enter the comfort eating cycle. So, you know, maybe for what this person's saying is, hey, Dr. Mondo, I realize my trigger emotion is anxiety and exhaustion, right? Put that in a glass, stir it together. You have the perfect cocktail for my comfort eating cycle to begin. So I know that's my cycle, right? But what happens if that cocktail gets stirred? I begin to sip it. I feel exhausted and anxious. What happens in that moment if I'm now faced with this feeling of, yeah, okay, great. I know what those trigger emotions are. I'm really in touch with them, but it doesn't stop me from the fact that I really want to hit the drive-through. So what I would want you to do in this case is just delay the decision. How much time can you put between yourself and making that decision? Start off with something you know you can commit to, right? So don't over-commit and under-deliver, under-commit and over-deliver. So maybe you say, when I get hit with those cocktail of emotions, I only can give you 90 seconds, right? It's all I can give you before I feel like I got to give into that comfort eating. Great, start at 90 seconds. And in those 90 seconds, what I want you to do is just take those 90 seconds and maybe take some deep breaths. Take 90 seconds to really kind of get real with yourself and say, what is this really about? You know, what is it really about? Is it really about me being upset about the way that interaction just went at work, and now all of a sudden I'm feeling anxious and I'm tired from the day I had at work? You know, what is this whole comfort eating cycle in this moment really about? Or maybe you say, you know what, I don't have patience for any of that, but I can delay the decision 90 seconds and I'll give you that. Great. When we slow down, we give ourselves an option to actually see other choices emerge. We get almost this problem-saturated tunnel vision when we start to feel these overwhelming emotions like anxiety. And when we've linked anxiety and anxiety regulation to food and comfort eating, it could become so difficult to even inject 90 seconds into that cycle. But I'll tell you what, if you can inject 90 seconds and then make your decision 90 seconds later, you will see over time that you are now slowing down that process. So one part that's huge is gaining insight, but another part is actually putting that insight into action. And now we are slowing down the automatic process of comfort eating. Before, There was no thought. It was just, there was no even idea that it was anxiety or exhaustion driving you to the drive-thru. You just knew that you had this craving for Taco Bell, right? You don't know why, but you have a craving for Taco Bell. You're in the drive-thru. Maybe later that night you realize, was that emotional eating? Now you've already gotten to the point though where you're well beyond that. Now, if we can add some time to that, if we can really slow this down and add in just 90 seconds, now we are starting to interrupt that pattern. Research shows that this is the pattern interruption that over time will rewire this response set that you have in your brain that is such an automatic pairing between anxiety and comfort eating. That is the greatest way to really take the next step in your relationship with comfort eating. Now, I want to back it up and remember, this is called delay the decision. So it still indicates that we're making a decision. This isn't, I got 90 seconds to get my act together, so in 90 seconds from now, I don't go through that drive-thru. No, it's just saying that in 90 seconds, I will make the decision on whether or not I will enter the drive-thru. One big thing I have to remind you of is do not pair this exercise of delaying the decision with a realization that, oh, I can't have what I'm about to want to have or whatever comfort eating has got me fixated on. If you pair being denied the opportunity to make the decision, it's actually going to be counterproductive. And guess what? You're going to say, yeah, I learned that skill, but there's no way I'm practicing it. You have to empower yourself to make choices. And if you can say, in 90 seconds, I'm going to make the decision, I'm looking at the victory, not in what you do next, but the victory actually in being that you were able to put aside 90 seconds, because that tells me that there is growth happening. That tells me that you are now beginning to slowly reorganize the wiring in your brain neurologically. And at the end of that 90 seconds, if you decide, guess what, 90 seconds up, timer goes off, I'm flying through that drive-thru. In fact, I already know what I want. Okay. It's not the size of the step, it's a direction that counts, as I often say. That is a step in the right direction. Now, over time, I'm willing to bet on you. And see, you're not willing to bet on yourself. You think that if you give yourself too many choices, you think if you give yourself too many opportunities to really think these things through, that you'll never come through, right? You'll always pick the wrong choice. But I'm willing to bet on you long term because I know something that maybe you are just starting to realize, that this process of comfort eating, yes, it's because you like the food, right? I like it, you like it, we all do. But what I'm betting on is the fact that you're beginning to realize there's an emotional component to all of this. Now, if you can delay this decision 90 seconds, there might be just one time out of 10 where you decide not to go through the drive-thru. Just one. Why is that so significant though? It's significant because yes, it's beginning to slow down the pattern that you have paired in your brain, but it's also significant because that one time you are choosing a different way of comforting yourself, separate from food. How big is that? Stage 4, we talk about unique outcomes. I hope you realize that this is a big enough unique outcome to rewrite your entire story with food. Just one time out of 10. One time out of 100. One time is all it takes. But you have to empower yourself to make that choice, because you see what happens is sometimes when we feel like we have no choices, when we feel like we have no options, oh yeah, is this why when I get stuck on really calorie restricted, rigid eating plans, nothing against them, but saying for some of us, they bring out the defiance in us. Some of us would value freedom so much that even if we are put on a regimented plan that we know is going to help us get the end goals that we want, our health, we still will get defiant and try to wiggle our way out of it because we hate being boxed in. So don't box yourself in. If you have the opportunity to, if you're not on a plan right now and you're really trying to understand your relationship with food, what I want you to do is I want to give yourself some latitude to make some decisions. Again, like this question we just got, Dr. Mondo, I realize why I emotionally eat. What's the next step? The next step is adding and delay the decision. So the next time that you're now feeling those comfort eating triggers happen, what I want you to do is I want you to take an opportunity to delay the decision. And when you do, realize that even if it's just once, if you choose a different form of self-care in that moment, something is happening. And that something is a rewriting of your story. It's happening right before your eyes. Don't minimize it. Just got another question that came through here, and I'm going to just be reading them here off my iPad. So if you see me looking down, it's not just that I'm nervous or I'm looking down at the ground. I got an iPad down here, I promise, right? Here you go. The second question is, and this is I get a lot of Biggest Loser questions recently. You know, a lot of people are wondering about, you know, my research with the show, but there's more people wondering now about the recent wave of research that we've had with The Biggest Loser. I've wanted to have a chance to talk more about that. So this question is actually perfect. This is a question that was emailed earlier. It says, the Biggest Loser research study in the New York Times is very, and it's capitalized, very discouraging. Anyone else feeling that? They saw that New York Times article, right? The one that said that if you lose weight, all those contestants on the show, they lost the weight in a short amount of time. And then they did this physiological research that showed that they had damage to their metabolism, damage to their hormones, and that when they were done losing the weight, they were in these new bodies. But really, you know, maybe now they weighed 200 pounds for a guy, right? But he was having the calorie limits of like a 160-pound man. Like he couldn't even eat the calories that a normal 200-pound man would need because his body was in this starvation mode saying, what the heck is happening right now? So, you know, this is a common thing that a lot of people are getting discouraged about because they're seeing this research. Part of what was talked about too is hormones and how some of those hormones can be released in your body when you go through quick, rapid, drastic weight loss. And those hormones and the metabolism are almost fighting back against you. They're almost, the body's saying, what is happening, right? We're losing weight too quick, too fast, and the body's trying to do anything it can to put weight back on. You know, that is very discouraging to hear that. I know for a lot of us that have been in this battle, like myself, for, you know, my entire life, I know a lot of you can probably relate to that, or a good portion of your life. It's discouraging news to see this research come out to actually say that there's some legitimacy to when we feel like at the end of a weight loss transformation, we are so hungry, we just can't control it, right? Because they're actually showing in this research that that's true. There's hormone depletion. The hormones that allow you to feel full, they're depleted. So that's very true. We also, you know, we'll hear some people say, I've weight cycled so many times, I swear my metabolism is slowing down. This research is actually saying that it is. And I'll tell you what, for me, that was a lot of validation because I've experienced a lot of that. So the question though becomes, and I'll finish off the question here, it's very discouraging news. I feel like giving up if my metabolism is going to fight back against me. What do I do? I have gotten an influx of questions on social media about this, and I just want to really unpack this for you right now. We have an opportunity to do that. So what this says to me is, in a nutshell, that if we are at all concerned with pace, that it says slower is better physiologically. I'm not an MD. Something to be pretty clear about. Sometimes people hear Dr. Mondo and they ask me to diagnose their wrist injury, which I just had one right before I came here. I can't diagnose it. This could be broken, to be honest with you. I have no clue. I just went to Rite Aid and I got a wrist guard, and the pharmacist said, you might want to get that taken a look at. But I said, I got stuff to do. So this is a perfect example of the fact that MD. So the type of research they're talking about in this study about physiology and about, you know, hormones and metabolism, that's not my area of specialty. But what they're saying is that rapid weight loss is not good for you long term. Your body fights back against it. This is adding to what we've heard a lot from other research that says rapid weight loss isn't always best for you long term. It makes it hard to maintain that weight loss. What I can tell you though too is that rapid weight loss is very, very tough for you to manage psychologically. You know, because what happens when you lose a drastic amount of weight in a short period of time is that your entire world flips upside down in a short period of time. And if we can add any months or days or even hours to how long that world flips, I think that we're actually doing you a great service. Now, the problem is that all of us are results driven. We want the results as soon as possible. We want the scale to move as soon as possible. We think that if the scale doesn't move, something's wrong. We panic, we freak out. A lot of that is really not as much of the fault of The Biggest Loser or a fault of any of the gyms that we work with, because that's what we ask for. Because if there weren't, if The Biggest Loser wasn't providing drastic weight loss as quickly as possible, someone else would. Because we all want results as quickly as we possibly can. That appeals to our nature as humans. We're very impatient. And right now we live in a society where we're just inundated with information, and we're constantly appraising information to say, what's going to allow me to get the best results in the shortest amount of time? So what we see here is really something that we need to be cautious of. And I want to be really clear. I'm not telling you that you need to abandon whatever health plan that you're currently on. I just really want to give you some encouragement that if you have a week where you're not hitting your goal, almost count it as a blessing. Why would I tell you that? Because I can tell you, physiologically, we're hearing that if you're 1 week, you put all the work into the gym, but you're not seeing the results on your scale, the way I want to flip this research is to say that, okay, maybe your body's fighting back a little bit. But if you can endure that and keep pushing, not panic, but just keep going, right? That's going to be better for your long-term health, because essentially what this research is saying is that doing anything for a quick amount of time, but not maintaining it over the long run, that's what freaks your body out. So show your body that you're gonna keep pushing through those tough weeks. Now, psychologically, it's very trying. I'll be honest with you, I don't weigh myself very often, not because I'm so much against weight as a metric, but because of the fact that I know my relationship to the scale. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Part of the reason I don't weigh myself, if not the large reason I don't weigh myself a ton, is because I know that as much as I've worked on it, it's still an emotional struggle. If I don't get the number that I'm expecting, I've just accepted that oftentimes that can send me into a spiral. Now, it can send me into a positive spiral where I celebrate everything and I just say, this is great, now I'm gonna eat whatever I want. And it can really send me into a negative spiral where I get so frustrated. And on those weeks where the scale hasn't moved, those are the weeks that I really find myself going right back into the old patterns of comfort eating, because I feel so dejected, so down, so panicked that I need food to save me and comfort me in those moments. So what this research to me says is, let's not get discouraged. If anything, this is a call for us to do something that we talk about a lot in the program. It's develop a journey mindset, not a destination mindset. So what does that mean, Dr. Mondo? Throw the scale away? Abandon the workout program that has me setting goals for myself? Absolutely not. But what I'm telling you is that have a long-term mindset. If you have a long-term mindset, that means that you are fixated not on reaching some number on the scale, but you're fixated on achieving a long-term health outcome. And if it's long-term and it's some week in that journey, you have a rough week on the scale, if you have a rough week and heaven forbid the scale goes up, if you have a journey mindset, there's not as much panic. There's still probably a little bit, right? But there's not as much. And as a result of that, you just keep going. You keep moving forward. So the big caution here is saying to us from this research that if we have a just endless pursuit to see results, that's okay. But just know that this is a call for us to, on the weeks where we start to experience what we would call struggles or, God forbid, failures, that they are not failures, that there is a context to it. Some of it's physiological, and psychologically, it might be a benefit to you. I promise you, if it takes longer. I said to some folks in the program before when I did some of these classes actually live, I said, some of the weeks where I stage 3'd the most, I learned the most about myself, I gained the most insight. Some of the biggest unique outcome weeks, stage 4 for me. Some of the biggest stage 5 moments of rewriting my story came in weeks where I hit weight loss plateaus. I hit last year a number that I hadn't seen in a long time on the scale in November. I haven't moved much from that number. I moved up a little bit, and then I moved down, but I plateaued a bit. And really, I've tried to really challenge myself to practice what I preach. I'll tell you, there's some times where I've been really frustrated about that. It's really bothered me a lot. There's been days where I allowed it to take me down this old weight-saturated narrative where I beat myself up a lot. I panicked. I started Googling, what are the quick ways to get it off, resets, all of that. But really, what has been the biggest victory for me in this season of my journey is being able to still be here today, still working out, still eating healthy, focused on the journey, not the destination. That is doing more from rewriting my story. That is doing more for me in my ability to say that I actually do have a self-worth and self-esteem that exists separate from the scale. It's in these moments where we find that we are tried, that we are tested, that we really find our true character and our true ability to rewrite our stories. Count it as a blessing when we struggle, because it's in those struggles that we become sharpened. It's in those struggles that we begin to develop greater emotional fortitude. You won't have an opportunity to rewrite your relationship with food if it weren't for those bad days, if it weren't for that cocktail of exhaustion and anxiety. That is your opportunity to rewrite your story. If you don't have an opportunity to see that scale not move for months and months on end, you have no ability to rewrite your story to say, I saw the scale didn't move and I kept showing up to the gym. I kept eating healthy. I focused less on the number and more on how I felt, more on the outcomes of the inches or other metrics. You can never rewrite your story without the trials that come in your story. Count them as a blessing. Embrace them. When you see the Biggest Loser stuff in the news that says your metabolism slows down with rapid weight loss, don't let that be discouraging to you. If anything, let that validate you. Because like I've told you, part of probably why I'm plateaued, I don't know, again, not my scope of practice, but I'd be willing to bet part of why I plateaued is that in my story, I've weight cycled about 7 or 8 times before I've got to this recent weight that I'm at now. In some ways, my body's probably pretty confused. You know, what's the deal? We lose like 50 pounds, then we put that back on. We lose another 50, we put it back on. Like at some point, like, are we going into starvation mode? Is winter coming? You know, Game of Thrones reference, of course. But, you know, is winter coming? Are we back in the hunter-gatherer societies? What is going on? So at some point, I'm trying to teach my body, if you just stick with me, I promise it'll all make sense. But I gotta be, you know, have some integrity with my body. I have to stick with it long term. And at the end of the day, I think my body's gonna figure out one day where its weight needs to be. And in the meantime, I'm gonna feel good because I'm gonna eat as good as I can and as clean as I can for the majority of the time. I'm going to exercise as often as I can. I'm going to continue to set weight loss goals. I'm going to continue to set fitness goals because I have a journey mindset now. Why do I have it? Because I got to tell you guys about it. And there's nothing that cuts to my core more than having to walk this stuff out while I preach it to you guys. It's tough. Let me tell you, you know, if some of you really get motivated to help others, and that's part of our stage 8, we talk about a lot, paying it forward, you know, just know that it really is motivating. But it puts some pressure on you because, you know, I would hate to show up today and number one, act like I have it all figured out. Because if that's why you're here, hang up now, move on. I don't have it all figured out. But I also know that this is a tough journey and that if I can try my best each day to have that journey mindset, like I said, some days I'll fall back into the old destination mindset. But if I can more days than not have the journey mindset, then I know I'll keep walking forward and I'll keep trying to help you guys on your journeys as well. Which again is part of the reason why I love these events, because I can see some of you guys on here now interacting. And what that does is it gives me so much encouragement to keep going, because it's as you share your stories that I get motivated to do more to further this message. You know, there's some really exciting things happening now that I can't even necessarily announce, although I really want to announce that it will happen in the next couple months or so. But there's some exciting opportunities that have are coming the way of this message. And you know, this message is not me. This message is our message. It's our story. You know, I'm not the only person in this entire world that struggled with my weight. I'm not the only person who's ever struggled with my identity or my emotional attachment to food. You know, I'm just lucky enough to be in a position to tell your story, our story collectively. But there's some exciting stuff coming up. And I think that there's a lot of people throughout the country that are ready to hear this message. I mean, how many of us are sick of seeing the same old talk about weight loss? Just calories in, calories out. If you can't do it, you don't want it enough, you don't have willpower. I'm so sick of that. You know, and I think that we're finally ready to change the conversation that we have about weight loss. We're finally ready to acknowledge the emotional components of it. And so again, if it's just me trying to just get this message out here, then I'm not going to probably reach many people. You motivate me. Your stories, your questions, they encourage me. And so I thank you so much for them. I do see another one coming through here, and I want to answer it too. You know, there's a lot of questions, to change gears a little bit, about intimate relationships. So much so that I'm going to just announce this right now. There'll be more of a formal announcement, but there is a next round of classes that I'm going to be doing. It's another round of 8-week classes, and they are going to start in the fall. We'll be doing early registration for them with some big discounts if you stay on as a Dr. Mondo member. But one of the classes that we're going to offer 2 of them. One of the classes is going to be on really discussing in 8 weeks. So 8 weeks full of really unpacking and talking about renegotiating your intimate relationships, your marriages, right? Even your close friendships as you go through the process of weight loss. How many of us know we need that, right? Yeah, because stage 6, and some of you haven't got to stage 6 if you're currently in the program, but stage 6 talks all about renegotiating your relationships. And a lot of questions I get are, you know, I'm going through this transformation and I'm really set on making it a priority to make it to the gym. I'm really focused on making it a priority to do my meal prep. But I gotta be honest, I don't think that my spouse, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my close friends and family, I don't feel like they're on board. And you know, it hurts me a lot to hear you guys going through that, because at the end of the day, I know how much of an emotional journey this is, and I know that what you really want more than anything is to just be the best version of yourself. So to have the people around you who you love, and who love you for that matter, not get it, not support you, even reject you in a lot of ways for you wanting to be a better version of yourself, that sort of rejection cuts to the core. And I know it because in some ways I've experienced it, but I also know it because of the stories that I hear in my research with The Biggest Loser, but also the stories I hear that folks are sharing that are going through this program. I want to answer this question because it asks something directly to that. It says, my spouse calls me selfish for taking me time to go to the gym, to do things that help my self-care. I often feel guilty and give up these things because of this, but then I eat my feelings away. What do I do to get out of this? Yeah, I think there's some people that are watching this call right now that are wondering if that's their story being told. And the reason you're feeling that way is because it's really common. You know, unfortunately, we talk a lot about this in stage 6, but change in any aspect of life, change in a relationship, is something that it's very rare for 2 parties to be on the same page with it. It's very rare for 2 parties to be on the same page and welcoming it. So often what you see is a whole ton of resistance. And that can be really positive change too. And again, you losing weight, you changing your life, you rewriting your story. How can that not be positive? How can your spouse not be on board with that? The problem is that all of us like routine. And when you're in a marriage or when you're in a close friendship and that routine is interrupted, our first response happens at not even a conscious level. It's really an unconscious level. And that first unconscious response we have is a knee-jerk response to stop the change because we don't like it. Stop the change because it makes us uncomfortable. And there's this thing we talk about in family therapy a lot, in couples therapy. It's this big old word called homeostasis. Homeostasis is our set point of functioning. Now, our set point of functioning in our relationships can be really healthy or really unhealthy or somewhere in between. But wherever it is, that's what's familiar to us. Some of us wonder, why do I keep getting in one relationship that mirrors the other relationship, which mirrors the previous relationship? It's because of homeostasis. It's because what is comfortable to us isn't always what's familiar. In other words, what might be really familiar is discomfort. Some of us grew up in chaotic households, so chaos is very familiar. And we will always gravitate towards what is familiar, not necessarily what's best, not necessarily what's most comfortable. So what happens in a relationship when you come to your spouse, just like this person is saying, and they're coming to their spouse and they're saying, hey, I gotta make it to the gym tonight. I know we gotta spend some time, that's a priority to me. But if I don't get this workout in, it'll be bad. I need that. I need that me time. Hey, I've been really focusing on taking 20 minutes just to myself. I need that before we get into our interactions here tonight. Now, if your spouse calls you selfish for that, how do you react and how do you respond to that? Well, first of all, we need to understand, why are they reacting that way? They're reacting that way because you're changing stuff up. Now, does that mean you shouldn't change it up? Absolutely not. Keep changing it up. Keep taking a stand for yourself. Why? Because it's your time. You're ready to rewrite your story. You must make a stand in this really critical juncture when your relationships are changing. I can promise you that if you really make a stand now, this will be a season of adjustment. It won't be a sentence. What I mean by that is that this adjustment period that your spouse has resistance to, this adjustment period that your friends have, oh my gosh, you're always having to order off the gluten-free healthy meal. Can you just eat a burger for once? Are you still on that diet? That season of adjustment, if you stand firm and you make that stand about you rewriting your story, over time, they will get with the program. They will get with the program. And in some rare instances, you may keep moving forward and they won't come with you. But I don't want you to focus on that quite yet. Sometimes that is called for. But sometimes it's a matter of first just saying, I'm gonna take a stand for me. So I gotta make it to the gym. So why are they resisting? They're resisting because they're scared. Your change makes them consider their own change. You know, for that spouse at home, for that friend who's saying, just eat a burger, you getting skinny, hate to say it, but it's probably making them have to look in the mirror themselves. Dang, that's tough, right? That's real though. That's real. That there's something inside of them, not conscious, maybe sometimes conscious, but mostly subconscious. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. That says that your change is scaring the you know what out of me. And as a result, subconsciously, I am protesting against that. I'm taking subtle jabs. It's always subtle. Oh, really? You got to go to the gym again tonight? Haven't you been like 4 times? Gosh, how much weight are you going to lose? These are all subtle ways that we say to each other, you're making me feel uncomfortable. Now, is it because I'm threatened? That also comes up in intimate relationships. Sometimes your friends are threatened by the fact that all of a sudden you might stand out amongst them because you look like you're in better shape than them. Just being honest. Happened in the research study. We had people in the research study with The Biggest Loser talking about that. Some girls coming back to their friend group and the friend group saying, we can't take a picture with you because you make us all look overweight. Or you don't fit in with us anymore. What are we going to feed her now to fatten her back up? I mean, I've heard it all. So I know there's varying degrees of overt and subtle forms of resistance and even downright sabotage. But what I want to challenge you to do is to do something that you and I are not good at doing. I want you to hold competing realities. I want you to hold one reality that says, I'm taking a stand. I don't care if Boo's on board. I don't care if my best friend's on board, my BFF's on board. I still taking a stand. I'm still making it to the gym. I'm still eating the salad. Yes, put the dressing on the side. No, I don't want a burger. I gotta take a stand. That's one reality I want you to hold, but I want you to hold a second reality that also stretches you to have compassion and understand that yes, it hurts like hell to have that resistance. It is rejecting, it is wrong, you don't deserve it, but this other reality says that compassion informs us that it's not always even about us. They're just scared of the change. Now, what happens when we hold both realities? It's kind of like, well, I'm going to still move forward, but maybe I might even have a conversation with you. I might even just name it for you because you might not even know that you're scared. But I might name it for you, not in a condescending way, but in a compassionate way and say, you know, babe, I get that this is a lot of change for us. And I probably haven't really ever asked you, what has it been like for you? I'm losing a lot of weight. What's it been like for you? Perfect open-ended conversation starter, right? Has it been scary? Is it hard to see that we can't have certain foods in the house? Are you resentful of me? Are you kind of pissed at me? That open and honest dialogue is what will allow that trial to make your marriage, your friendship, that much stronger. You know, if you can have those difficult conversations, if you can get past the fakeness, if you can just get real with each other and respect each other's feelings and allow your spouse or allow your friend to have their own experience, that one reality, while you have your own, what happens is that you develop a greater level of intimacy in that relationship. And you also don't feel pressure to have to change in order to people please or in order to really make them feel comfortable. Because again, remember, the first reality is yours. I'm not changing. This is me. This is a stand I'm making. But rather than not acknowledge it and trying to people please, or doing what happens here a whole heck of a lot, giving into this guilty feeling and saying, I'm going to skip the gym because I really don't want to make you mad. What we're really doing is we're selling ourselves short. So we're not rewriting our story and saying we're worth it. We're actually continuing the old story that says we're not worth it. We're continuing old patterns of people pleasing. And on top of that, we are robbing our relationships. We're robbing our relationships of really difficult conversations that could be the birth of greater levels of intimacy. Now, some of you might say to yourself, I have no clue how to have those conversations. Well, part of what we do in the program, the roadmap program, if you haven't got to stage 6, I'm going to give you a blueprint in that on how to have difficult conversations, right? This whole thing is, I can't do therapy with you guys. I'd love to work with all of you one-on-one. I just don't have the bandwidth. But I want to give you as many things coaching related that I can give you up until that point. And as a result of giving that to you, I want you to try these skills out. You'd be surprised at what you're able to do if you have a little bit of guidance, right? You see it in the gym. You could see it in this arena as well. But if you hit a wall and you just know that, you know what, our homeostasis, our familiar groove is that we don't have those tough conversations, or when we do, they're unsafe, meaning I get emotionally rolled over, or even, in some cases, God forbid, they get physical or whatever it may be. If that's the case that you're in, what I want you to do is I want you to reach out and get some extra support. Go see a couples counselor. You could even go see an individual counselor, and yes, you can bring in a close friend or a close family member into your counseling sessions to have some of these difficult conversations. I don't want you to view them as these big, scary things. I want you to flip and reframe how you view these. These are opportunities to have deeper relationships. This is an opportunity for you to rewrite your story, renegotiate your relationships. And again, I just want to highlight for you that we are going to do a full-on 8-week course. It's going to be amazing, where we just talk about renegotiating these relationships for 8 weeks straight. That's all we do, is talk about relationships. And the reason I'm doing that is because I realize how big of a need it is. I am tired of seeing so many of you struggling in your relationships, not feeling like you have support or guidance on how to renegotiate them in your weight loss transformations. So many people get to a goal weight, they even rewrite their story, but the one piece of their story they don't rewrite is their relationships. And it's an incomplete rewrite if we don't consider how we want to shift the way we're showing up in our relationships. It's impossible for me to say that I truly value myself, that I truly have high self-worth, if I don't enter relationships that also mirror that. If I don't have relationships that have that as a standard. If I'm in relationships that put me constantly, my needs, right, my opinions, my voice, as being subjected or put on the sidelines, then guess what? I'm not really living out my story. And yeah, I know some of you are wondering, what happens if we have these difficult conversations? I know fear is speaking to some of you right now. What happens if we have those difficult conversations? What happens if we take these steps? What happens if we go to couples counseling and nothing changes? Well, first of all, I always say to people, I just listed about 100 steps, right? Usually, step 100 of leaving a relationship like that, oftentimes it takes a lot of buildup to get there. Some of us would say that we just know when it's time to leave, right? But there's a lot of steps in between. So don't allow that fear to take over. By you taking a small step, by you getting into couples counseling, by you taking some of the steps that we're recommending in the program, you are really taking some big steps towards change. But if those don't work, it doesn't mean that you have to end the relationship with your friend or with your spouse. But yeah, there comes a certain time for all of us, and I would want all of you to get into counseling before you make that call, or just be really sure of it, right? Like some of you might really have spent some time spiritually in a place of praying on that, or spending some time meditating on that. These are big decisions to really take space from a relationship. And sometimes you need to, though, right? Like some of you know that in order to really rewrite your story, you got to do it. And so I want to empower you and empower your sense of knowing when that time is above mine or anyone else's, right? There's no friend out there, there's no counselor that can really tell you when it's time to leave a relationship that isn't serving you in the way that you want in terms of your story. But I want to say that there's a lot of steps in between often making that call. So don't be afraid to take action because you think if I take action, it means everything is going to all of a sudden come to this big moment where I have to make a decision. Not always is that the case, and often there's a lot of steps in between. All right, we got time just for one more. I'm going to take a Facebook question here really quick. And I'm pulling up here on Facebook. There was someone that had commented earlier in one of the Facebook forums that I'm in. This is actually, I'm going to give a quick little shout out to the P2P family. They are an amazing gym, and they're out in the Concord area. And I'll tell you what, they just take this Facebook forum to a whole new level. And someone posted in it earlier, and they had a direct question. I said, that's a great one. I want to talk about that in the forum. So I want to get to that while I just have a few more moments here. And it was a question about eating. And of course, now that I'm talking about it, I'm sure I won't be able to pull it up. So bear with me here. Talk amongst yourselves. We just have a few more moments here. Okay, let's see. Here we go. I struggle the most with meal 5. Meals 1 through 4, I'm on point, like on point. Then dinner time rolls around and all the bets are off. I mean, I don't go crazy, but I eat carbs, and I know we're not supposed to eat carbs meal 5. Why does this happen? Why do I make poor decisions meal 5? I avoid everything at work. I'm such a good girl, but then meal 5. A couple things I'm noticing. I want to take you through my thought process. One thing I'm noticing is that, first of all, this question came from Aaron Hernandez Pelkey. And I want to say, Aaron, first of all, your story is so similar to so many people that I'm interacting with right now through therapy, so many people that I'm interacting with right now in the program. It's a really common thing. It's this thing where we struggle at night. We can do good through the day, but we struggle at night. One of the things I want to point out to you is that I'm sensing that if you took my assessment on drmondo.org, if you haven't, go there, drmondo.org, click on the assessment. One of the things we assess for is black and white thinking. We just know that long term, all of us who've dieted a long time, we start to think of food as this dichotomy of good and bad. And Aaron uses a lot of that language here. So I just want to point that out, Aaron. I'm not bagging on you. I'm just saying that that there's a lot of this like good girl, bad girl, good food, bad food. And anytime that we get in that mindset, sometimes it sets us up you're seeing, which is to like live into this perfectionism like a good chunk of the day, and then all of a sudden like we're doing so much to keep that standard up that we feel boxed in, and by night we just go for it. Now that could be part of it. Part of this could just be some all-in thinking. So with that, I want to encourage you right now to try not to have such rigid standards with food, right? Try to expand your food a little bit more, so where there's this gray area, there's healthy food, and then there's a little less healthy, but still probably healthy food, right? And just try to expand your version of food so you see more of the gray area. That's one thing I want you to kind of maybe consider. But the other thing I want to talk about too is just the fact that, do some emotional check-ins. I want you to, the next time that you are on your way home, I want you to really check in with yourself emotionally. I want you to really just kind of see what's coming up for you. See, for a lot of people, what happens is that I heard it this week. I'm going to just borrow a story that I heard from someone I'm working with. She came in and for this exact thing. She said, I lost this weight. I'm doing really good, but I'm starting to gain weight back. And the only meal of the night that's killing me is dinner. What the heck's up with that? I hear it so much. But what we found out is I said, I just want you to slow that down a little bit. And I want you to spend some time before you go home. Maybe it's right before you walk in the door. Take 10 minutes and just take some deep breaths and check in and just kind of check in with your feelings and your emotions. How are you feeling? You know, even what are some thoughts that are popping up for you? Do that emotional check in there. Because what's going to happen is that for her, the woman I'm working with, what she found out is that she felt a ton of anxiety before she walked in the door. So at first she kind of got lost in that. Well, why do I feel anxiety? You know, should I feel anxiety? But she sat with a little while longer over time. And what she found is that a lot of that anxiety, first of all, it happened a lot of her life before she came home. Some of it was her childhood stuff, coming into a household that was unpredictable and chaotic. The other parts of it, though, was that she was in a household where she has a husband and she's got some kids that it's her husband's kids from a previous marriage. She's a step parent, and she felt like every day she walked in to kind of like this tension of being kind of on the outs with the team, like they're their own established team. I'm not part of the team, and it's really gonna be anxiety provoking. So a lot of what she was walking into was some anxiety. And so what we really were able to contextualize for her was that what she was doing is she was just comfort eating as a means of providing some type of self-soothing and self-comfort and emotional regulation to those really scary feelings of anxiety. That's all that was. So I don't want to condemn that once we identify it. I want to add some delay the decision, some emotional check-ins, and then what starts to emerge is, how do I meet that anxiety head on? So for her, she found that sometimes she needed that routine of just taking some deep breaths. That was enough to help her come in and feel better. She also had a conversation with her husband about it. She also began to start implementing on certain days, like another thing that she'd do. Maybe she'd go for a walk or she'd go to the gym before she got home. Those were transitions that helped her continue to advocate for self-care in ways separate from food. So if you are struggling with this one meal a day, and oftentimes it is at night, I want to ask yourself these questions of, what are my emotions that typically visit me at night? Often they can be predictable. And also too, part of it could be more of like my 20% of the answer would be, do I have really, really rigid standards throughout the day with food? And if so, that might be part of what's leaking out in the end of my day. All right, I don't think I have more time tonight. Unfortunately, it's been such a joy to have a chance just to answer some of these questions from you guys tonight. We will be doing this regular and often. You guys are Dr. Mondo members. That's why you're here tonight. And and so this is part of your membership that you have with drmondo.org, is that we do these regular events. And I want to do as many of them as we can. And we'll be doing again one next month. And be on the lookout, because I am going to announce to you guys these programs that are launching this fall. I mentioned to you one of them. It's an 8-week course on renegotiating your relationships, right? You don't have to be married to be in this course. You don't have to even be in an intimate relationship to be in this course. You know, if you got friends and you got family that are resisting you in your stage 6 work that we talk about in the program, this is a program that you want to be in. If you scored high on the assessment in this area where it said you might not have the most supportive of support systems, this is an 8-week program I want you to take advantage of. Definitely, by all means, jump on that 8-week program. I'm going to give a huge discount to members, because here's the way I look at it. If you've already been in this world and you've already found this stuff to be useful, then why not make sure that I can offer it in a way that's a no-brainer for you guys to do for another 8 weeks. You know, I think that we can really change a lot of lives in an 8-week process. I know we're doing it already in the roadmap program, but imagine if we had another 8 weeks to really work on another level of this stuff. It's kind of like you get your general ed in the 8-week roadmap program, and now we're adding on, and you're actually doing some higher education in specific areas. And that's only going to make you more successful long term. The other course I'm going to do is a course on body acceptance. Okay, so some people talk a lot to me through email and social media or in person at my talks, and they say, I really struggle with body image stuff. You know, the person I see in the mirror often doesn't match up with the person that everyone else seems to see. Or, you know, I'm constantly caught in this web where it's never enough for me. I'm always frustrated about my appearance and things like that. So we're gonna have an 8-week course where we just focus on body acceptance and self-love and compassion. It's gonna be an awesome course. Can you take both at the same time? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Those courses aren't gonna be quite as intensive on the readings. They'll be more focused on the lessons that we have for you guys. So yeah, you can definitely enroll in both, knock them out at the same time. They're just gonna be another added level of your story development here, of rewriting your story. And you know, the second one, the body acceptance stuff, to be quite frank with you, we don't get into it as much as I want to in the 8-week program. We just don't. And really it's its own separate topic, not separate from everything, but it's its own separate topic in that it's so important that we need 8 weeks on it. And so I'm gonna do 8 weeks for both of those. And those courses are gonna be announced. You're getting the first announcement here. The only gym owners know about this, but you guys who are on the call tonight, I wanted to announce that to you. Again, make sure that your membership's active, because if so, you'll get a big discount on it. If not, unfortunately, there's just a standard price that will be announced as well. And that will be the regular cost. So make sure you keep your membership up, get you that membership discount. And again, be on the lookout. We'll be doing more of these. I want to thank everyone tonight who's viewing. I want to thank you all for the questions. I'm Dr. Mondo, and again, go to drmondo.org. If you want some more information, take the assessment there. Oh, one more thing to announce, podcast finally launching on iTunes this summer. Be on the lookout for that. You can subscribe to those. You can share that with your friends. It's, of course, a free resource to get more word out there about what we're doing. You guys have a fantastic week. And if you have any more questions that I didn't get to tonight, go to my Facebook page at Dr. Mondo. It's Facebook/Dr. Mondo, DOCTORMONDO. Go there and you're going to see a live stream link to tonight's talk. And just in the comment thread, type your questions out there. I'll try my best to get to those before the night's over. You guys have a great night, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks.